Jaswant then. Jaswant, tell me what is the interface?
Yeah, it is like a abstract class where we have everything which is defined as abstract.
Okay, when you say everything defined as an abstract, what do you mean by that?
So inside, if you try to define something which is not abstract, you'll throw an error, right?
No, but tell me what is an abstract as per you? I mean, when do you say something is abstract? You marked class as abstract, which is okay,
Mm,
but what inside this class will you have?
Um, any kind of methods or
Right.
any?
There would be methods here. There would be method, let's say void m1, right?
Yeah,
Right. And what kind of method this could be? Like you could have normal methods, which is there. You have mentioned about abstract class, right? I was asking about interface, but okay, fine. But let's understand this also. Abstract class, right? You mentioned. So
huh,
abstract class is not is gives you a partial abstraction, right?
yeah,
Partial abstraction.
yeah,
So you can have normal methods like this. You can have methods which can have body, right?
huh,
And you can have methods which cannot have body, right? And
yes,
what do you call such methods? Abstract methods.
yes.
Okay. So if in a class you want to have a abstract method, right? Then it is compulsion. There's a compulsion on you that you will have to mark your class also as abstract. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is around abstract class. So let's talk about interface. Interface. So you can see it's 100% abstraction. Like you can see, right? This is not abstract class. This is not abstract method, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is an abstract method. This is an abstract method. Okay.
Yes,
First of all, what do we call these methods? These are like normal methods. You can term it as normal,
normal.
or you can also say, man, you can also term it as concrete methods. Okay,
Great. Okay.
concrete methods. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
so normal methods are concrete methods. Okay, so and these are abstract methods. Okay,
Okay.
now my question was on the interface side, like what is an interface? We understood what is abstract class. It's a partial abstraction. What is interface? It helps you to achieve 100%
100%.
abstraction.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you mean here? Like if you define an interface, let's say browser, okay, and I open the braces, what kind of methods you can have? All abstract
Abstract.
methods, right?
Yes,
All abstract
abstract.
methods.
Yes.
You will have all the abstracts only. So whether you write abstract or not, they are by default abstract. Okay, and you are not
Mm.
allowed to define the body of it,
Yes.
right, everyone? Okay, again, let me repeat since more people joined. See, we are trying to discuss about interface today, and I thought there are two topics which were pending, which is the default method and the static method inside interface. So we are discussing that part, right? But before discussing all that, I'm just trying to revise what is an interface. So interface is something which you would use to achieve 100% abstraction, and you can have abstract methods here. And you cannot write. I mean, you can write abstract, you cannot write abstract, but by default, all your methods which you create here, right, are abstract only. And here you can see I'm not provided the body of it. If you try to provide a body of a method here, like this, it will start complaining. Okay, it will the compiler will throw error. Okay, so you cannot have a normal method or a concrete method here inside inside the interfaces. Okay, so the rules which I just said, right, was true till the version 1.7, the seventh version of Java. But as soon as the eighth version of Java came, right, Java 8 came, there was some enhancement in the rules. And as part of this enhancement, we received two new things in interface. One is called as default method. Default method. Don't confuse yourself with this default as your default access modifier. It is not that. Okay. Okay. Hey, hi Ashok.
Hi Akhil, hi everyone.
Hi, hi. Good evening. So Ashok, we are discussing your topic today. Okay, about that interface. You asked right two things: default methods and the static methods.
Yes, Akhil.
Right. So we are
Yes,
discussing
yes.
that. So we just started, and I've just said that until now we have learned that interface can have only abstract methods, which does not have a body, right? And if you try
Correct.
to create a body in, I mean, if you try to create a method with a body, the compiler will complain, right?
Yes.
Right. So this was not allowed. But these rules are applicable for Java 1.7. I mean, which is the seventh version of Java. But as soon as the
Right,
eighth
right.
version of Java came in, right, they provided two new additional capabilities here. One is the default method, and another is the static method which you can define here. Okay.
Right.
Now
Yes.
default, I was telling to everyone that don't confuse yourself this default as an access modifier. No, it's not an access modifier. There is no keyword for default access modifier, right, in Java. If you don't specify, that becomes a default thing, right? So this is a separate thing, okay, everyone. But let me first show you. You will realize the importance of these methods once I show you like how interface are consumed. Okay, so let's see this. Although I have already done that exercise, but let me not. Let me just keep it somewhere else. Uh, Let me create a package. Package one, and let me place everything here. Okay, so we are good, and let me close everything. Okay, let me do refactor. These are done, and close all tabs in group, and this one also, right? So let me create a new package. I'll create a package as package 2. Okay, and inside this package we'll let's first create an interface. Okay, how do we create an interface? Sudhakar, please tell me, what should I do here? Sudhakar, you there? Okay, Sudhakar is not there. Siali, if you're there now. Okay, Siali is also not there. Okay, fine, no worries. Fizula, if you can help me, what can I do here to create an interface? Okay, okay, no worries, Sudhakar. Fizula, you there? Okay, today everyone is
Yes.
on mute. Okay.
Yeah. Select class, and
Okay.
within that, select interface.
Okay, yes, select interface, and then let's give it a name, right? So let's say that I want to define
Yes.
interface named as WebDriver. Okay, WebDriver. Uh, no, Sally, we cannot hear you. If you're saying something, no. No, we cannot hear. Okay, no worries, no worries. So again, right? So let's say that we are trying to create an interface with the name as WebDriver. As soon as you do, you can see interface being keyword and the WebDriver, right? So no worries, Sally. No worries. No worries. Okay. Uh, So here, right, public interface WebDriver, and let's try to create one abstract method. Let us say, okay, Ashok, you know about Selenium library, right? Tell me one of the two methods which you know about which comes from WebDriver. We'll try to mimic that.
I didn't get you, Akhil.
You know about Selenium, right?
Yes.
Selenium library. So there is an interface in Selenium also, right? Which is with the name as WebDriver, right?
Yeah, WebDriver
No?
driver is got a
Okay,
new
no worries.
Chrome driver.
Hmm. So there,
That's how
WebDriver is what? WebDriver is an
we
interface, right?
tried. Yes, yes. WebDriver is an interface.
Yes, interface, right? So okay, let me say this. So as Sudhakar mentioned, right, there's a get method. So there are a lot of methods which that interface has, right, which are again abstract in nature. So you can assume like I'm trying to mimic that WebDriver class. Okay. Okay. So what I'll do here is, let me have the method void get. Okay. Okay. So it's a get method which I've added here, and this is what abstract by nature, right? Let me create one more method. I will add one more method as find element. Okay, find element. This is another interface. This is another method within that interface. So let's say that I'm done with now. I think my interface is good. I have two methods, get and find element, and I'm good with it. What I'll do next is I will now try to create classes which can implement this interface. Okay, okay, yes. So let's do this. So what I'll do is let me term my class as Chrome driver class. Okay, so I will create a Chrome driver class now. Chrome driver. Okay, so this is a class being created. Let me just open the WebDriver in the right split. And over here, right now, this is a class, and I need to implement the WebDriver interface, right? And that is how Selenium guys would have also done, right? So they would write, they would have written implements, and WebDriver. Okay, WebDriver. Sally, you can hear me. You can hear us, right? I don't know what is happening. Uh, I think I'm audible to everyone else, right? Fizula, I'm audible, right? Ashok, you can hear me, right? Rafael, you can hear me. This
Yes.
one,
Yes,
Sudhagar,
I can hear you.
right? You can. Okay.
There is a
Okay.
slight internet issue, I think.
Really? I can try to switch actually if there is such problem. Let me try. Just a second. Because Atul is also facing the issue and Siali is also facing the issue. Let me try to switch to a different network. Very quickly. Why it is not showing up? Mm-hmm. I opened this and if they're too getting this kind of trouble. Okay, what trouble are you getting, Sally? You're saying I'm getting this message, your mic is off due to the size of call. Due to the size of call? If anyone suggests work around to fix this. Size of call? No, it should not be the problem there. I don't know. Uh, okay, Sally, but you can hear me, right? If you can, please type yes. You can hear. Okay, then leave it. Okay, I will try to see it afterwards. What could be the issue? But it should not be the case. I think this one is able to speak, or Ashok is able to speak. I don't know. Right. So okay, let it be. Uh, let me switch to a different network. Okay. Okay. I hope now I'm still audible. So let's do this. Okay. Now you can see I created a class Chrome driver which will be implementing the WebDriver. Since I'm implementing this interface, what all methods I have to implement here? Please, if you know that, please tell me like what should I write here? I should be implementing what methods? Just one.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Class Chrome driver implements a driver. Okay. What get method
Get method, right?
and find
So
element? Yeah.
and the other method also, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I'm not clear with the WebDriver thing which you explained. Okay. Mm, Sally, here I have just tried to create an interface with the name as WebDriver, and I'm trying to create a class which will implement that WebDriver interface. Okay, that's it. There is nothing related to Selenium here. Okay, so please avoid. I mean, there is nothing related to Selenium, so you can be. It is just about interfacing class here. So I have created one method void get, and what I'll do is I will let's say provide the implementation here and say why it is complaining void package flashes with get in package attempting to assign weaker access privileges. Okay. Public void get, and here let's say Chrome driver get method. Okay. So this is how you implement method. Similarly, I will implement the other method, which would be public void find element. Okay. Find element. Okay, find element, and here I will say what s out. Let me say it again. Chrome driver. Uh, uh, Chrome driver find element method. Let's say this find element method here. Okay. Now I have why it is still complaining. Must either be declared abstract or interface. Implement methods. I have already implement method. Okay, I did not provide the right name. Implement
Yeah,
find
let's
element. Okay, just a second. Element. Right now it is fine. Okay. Now I have implemented both the methods which are coming from this interface. Right. Now this is one class which is implementing the WebDriver interface. So you can, if I go back to my thing here, right? So let me try to design this. So what I did was I've created a WebDriver interface and I have implemented one class on it, which is Chrome driver. Okay. Let me, so this is a class. Okay. This is a class. Let me create another class which will implement this WebDriver interface. So this will be Firefox. Let's say Firefox driver. So I will very quickly do this. Go back and here I will create another class and I will name it as Firefox driver. Uh, F to be small and D to be capital, right? And here I will say implements WebDriver. This is okay. It took from where? WebDriver package 2. Okay, we got this from here, and this is from where? This is from package 2. Yes, package 2, and it is asking to implement. So let me just copy these methods again, and we'll just paste it here. I hope this is clear, right, to everyone. Here I will just say that the Firefox one version, right? So I have created two classes, Chrome driver and Firefox driver, and both are implementing WebDriver interface. Okay. Now let's say that let's name our this complete project as Selenium. Okay, let's name it as Selenium, and the version of my current project is, let's say, what, let's say 4.0. No, that's 1.0 that have a snapshot. That is the version of my project. Now let's say that what I've done is, so based on this version, right, which is 1.0, I will like to consume this here, right? So I will write my automation framework, right? I will create my automation framework, and here let's say that I would I would try to use those classes there, right? So let's say Chrome driver, let's say Chrome driver cd equals to new Chrome driver, and that's it. So what all methods I can access? I can say cd dot get method, right? Because that is the method which my Chrome driver class has, right? This is the method Chrome driver method, the get method, and also I can access what method? Cd dot find element, right? Now similarly, if I see the Firefox driver, right, I can access Firefox also. Firefox driver fd equals to new Firefox driver, right? And I can say fd dot get, and I will say fd dot find element. Okay. And what I'll do next is let me run this and let's see what output do we get. Now this is a class here, and what was the version of these methods being invoked? This would be like a Chrome version, and this would be like the Firefox version, right? I hope the output is very clear to everyone. Okay, so there is no new understanding required here. Okay. Now let's say uh, I released that version of Selenium 1.0, and now as part of my new features which I wanted to add in Selenium, I decided, okay, now I will provide some new capabilities in my WebDriver interface. Okay, so I will go there. So let me again say, so this is currently working as per version 1.0. Okay, so both of them are working as per the version of Selenium as 1.0. Here, when the second version of Selenium comes, where I will try to add some more capabilities in the WebDriver interface. Let's see what will happen in this case. Let me think that I can add a new method. Okay, again an abstract method. So I will say void, let's say manage. Okay, let's say manage. Now see this very clearly what will happen. this WebDriver interface, right, has already been implemented by two of the classes, which are what? Chrome driver and Firefox driver, right? Chrome driver and Firefox driver, right? So these two classes have already been implementing that WebDriver interface. At what time? At the time when the version was 1.0, and that interface had only two methods. So the responsibility of these classes was that they have to implement only those two methods. Are we getting this? Right? Now what will happen is, since you introduced a new abstract method, right, inside the interface, this part, right, you introduce this new thing, right, inside what version? You introduce it in the version 2.0 of your Selenium, right? Now what will happen? Your existing code started to break. You can see you have compilation issues now. You have compilation issue in Chrome driver also, and you have compilation issue in Firefox driver. Why it is complaining? Can someone tell me why your Chrome driver and Firefox driver is complaining? It was working perfectly fine till now, and I just added a single method in WebDriver, and you compilation, and we can see some compilation issues. Why is that?
Because unimplemented methods.
Right. These. So what you see, this manage method is what? It's a abstract method, right? And this is a part of this interface, right? WebDriver interface. And as per the rules of Java, whoever has to implement this interface, it's a responsibility on them that they have to provide the implementation of all the abstract methods. Now, if you would look at the Chrome driver thing, right? Here, what is happening? Are you implementing all three? No, I am implementing only two. But if I am a developer of a Chrome driver class, then as per me, I am pretty good with my work, right? Selenium decided to add a new method, so it should not start impacting the existing code base of all the users, right? So now you see there is a problem. Now it is like that someone who created the interface WebDriver, if they add anything new to their interface, it will start impacting the work of the existing users. So which is like a breaking change, right? It's a breaking change. You introduce something which has started breaking the code of other users, right? So this is called as breaking change, right? Now, do you think it is acceptable, right? It is acceptable. First of all, it is not acceptable. Okay, until unless you're very sure that okay, this is something which I really need, and without this, and you have a very justified, I mean, justification around it. But in most of the cases, you will not find that. Okay, now because of this, right, you can understand you cannot you are restricted, right? You are restricted here that you cannot maybe like enhance the capability of your interface here, right? You I mean, as because of the rules of Java, you are tightly, I mean, your hands are tied, right? And you cannot enhance the capability of your WebDriver interface using these abstract methods, right? Now this was a problem which everyone faced across the globe. Okay, they understood, okay, web interfaces are good because they provide you like a contract, right, where these are different methods, and whoever implements them, they are binded by the contract that they have to implement all those methods, right? But you cannot add more methods to it. If you try to add, it will start breaking the code of everyone else, right? Now this was a big problem. Now Java developers understood about this, and they say, okay, there seems to be a problem, so let us try to find a solution. The first solution which they provided it, they said, okay, let us do this thing. You can see if they added an abstract method again, right, it creates a problem. So they decided, okay, we will not add an abstract method. Okay, although you still can, and then the only solution is that the your implementing classes will have to implement that method, okay, which is there. But they came up and said that, okay, we will introduce two new concepts. One is a default method, okay, and what will happen here is, here you can provide a method with the implementation, right? So they what they did now is they said, okay, first let me create a method. So you will write here default as a keyword, and then you will write the normal way you write void, let's say manage now. Okay, I did this, and here you will provide the body of it. It's not an abstract method. It's not this. No, this is not how it works, right? You are providing like a concrete method here, okay? A method with a body, okay? So now they made the interface, right? I mean, also have a method which has the implementation of the body itself, right? Now you can understand, right? This is what it is. So what they did, what they will do is, now they are allowing users to enhance the capability of the interface by adding some default methods. But as part of the default thing, they're also providing a body to it. So I will say, let me provide the logic here. S out, uh, web driver manage method. Okay, let's say we added this. Now what will happen? You can see your code did not break, right? You can see there is no error here. But if you would go to automation demo, right, you can see, right, I did not implemented that method here in the Chrome driver, right? And I also did not implemented that manage method here also, right? But see, what will you get here? If you do CDA, right, CD dot, you see, you automatically get the third method, which is the manage method, right? Which is your default method, and the default implementation of it is already added in the interface, the source of origin, right? Now you have to understand what is the benefit of default method. Default method is like method which has some default implementation, and you can add such methods in an interface so that you can enhance the capability of your interface, right, as and when you required, right. So you can do this, so similarly for the Firefox driver also you can do this. Okay, now, so we understood this. What is the default method? A method which can be added in the interface, which will have a default implementation. Why do we need this? We need this so that we do not uh, break the existing code, right? And due to this, we are also able to enhance the capability of interface, right? You can have some new methods inside this. Now the next part to it, right? About default, you as a user, as a class, you can still override that behavior. You have a default implementation of manage method, but as a Chrome driver, if you want to change that implementation also, you're free to do it. How will you do it? You will go to the Chrome driver class here, and then you will say public void manage. Okay, manage, and here you will say s out Chrome driver manage method. Okay, similarly, let me add a behavior in the Firefox also. Okay, Firefox. Now let's run this code and see whether it works or not. Okay, so this part here is because of version 2.0. Okay, you created a default method in your interface which has some implementation. You could avoid writing your overridden behavior also, right? That is also fine. So in that case, what version of manage will run? The version which is mentioned in the interface. But if you have overridden that behavior in your class, then which version will run? The version which you have mentioned in your class thing. Okay, so let's run this now. You can see, right, Chrome driver manage method, Firefox manage method, and Firefox, I mean web driver version is this one, right? You can see here, right, the ID also shows you that there are two overrides of this method. Okay, so we understand this part. Okay, one interesting use case, I told you that that a single class can implement multiple interfaces. Yes or no? We discussed this, right, everyone? Now let's create one more interface. I'll create one more interface, Java class. This time I will create an interface of take screenshot. So take screenshot. Okay, I'll create an interface of it. Okay, and let's say I will add two methods here. Void uh, uh, take. Okay, okay, I do again. It's an interface, so I cannot do this. right? And also I will add one more method, let's say manage. Okay, manage. And manage, okay, default method, right? I want to show you in the default case. Okay, let's do it now. Let's do this way also. But again, you will get confused. Okay, let us talk about default only as of now. Okay, so if it's a default method, what you have to do is you have to provide the implementation, right? So let me write here s out. What, take screenshot, take screenshot, manage method. Now, if you would go back to your diagram, right, which you were discussing. Now, see what I did was, now Chrome driver and Firefox driver were the classes which were implementing this interface till now. Now, what I'll do is I will add one more interface with the name as take screenshot. Okay, and what I am doing trying to do is now is I will implement this take screenshot in the Chrome driver class again, right? So now your Chrome driver class will be implementing two interfaces, one this and another this. Similarly, Firefox will also implement this, right? Okay, so Firefox will also implement both the interfaces, WebDriver and take a screenshot. Now WebDriver had three methods, right? Let me write here. It had get method, it had find element method, and it has a default method which was manage. Manage. What is the methods mentioned in the take screenshot? One is the take method, and another was the default method, which is the manage one. Okay, so you can understand that this thing and this thing are common here, right? So both of them have the same method name. Okay, both of them have the same method name. Let's go back here. What I will do next is this is a take screenshot, and so I did this method here. Okay, and let's say let me enhance my Chrome driver. So earlier it was only implementing WebDriver. Now I will also implement take take screenshot. Okay, I will implement this one also. It will start complaining. Why it is complaining? Because we have not implemented one of the abstract method which is coming from this take screenshot thing. And what is that? It is this method taken, right? Take method. So if you would hover over it, it says implement method. Let me implement the method. You can just let me do it right away. I will say take method, right? Now, how many methods Chrome driver has? Chrome driver has get method, find element method, take method, and manage method. Okay, so it has this. Let me remove this manage method as of now. Okay, let me remove this. Let me first remove this. Okay, so these are all three abstract methods coming from. These two are coming from WebDriver, and this one is coming from the take screenshot, right? Similarly, let me go to the Firefox driver, and here also let me just copy this take method, and let me implement this here. Take screenshot, right? Although there is no need to show you this part also, but let's just no worries. Take screenshot. This is package 2, right? So I'll remove this part and I will add this method. Okay. Now, if you would see here, right? Let's ignore this. Let's just focus on Chrome driver, right? Chrome driver as a class is implementing two interfaces. Two interfaces, right? This one and this one. So what is the responsibility on Chrome driver? That it has to implement all the abstract methods, first of all, right? So abstract methods. So what are those abstract methods? So get method, find element method. So it will implement this get method and it will implement find element method. And since you're also implementing this take screenshot, so there is a method take also. So you will implement this also. So this is something which you have to do. So there is no skipping part of it, right? You have to do it. But now you have two common two methods which are with the same name, manage and manage, and both are coming from different versions. Now in my automation demo class, right, which I created, here I'm trying to create the instance of Chrome driver. Cd equals to new Chrome driver, and I'm saying cd dot get which version will run. This version will run, the version which is mentioned in Chrome driver. If I say find element, which version will run? This version will run, right? This version will run, this version will run. If I say take, which version will run? the version mentioned in the Chrome driver class. But if I try to do manage, which version will run? Will it run the version of the WebDriver, or will it run the version of take screenshot? I hope you're getting the question. Please answer this now. What do you think your cd.manage will do? Will it run the version of the, see, you already have the implementation of this here, right? Where it says WebDriver manage method, let's say, right? It is printing that part. So it's not that you do not have an implementation. You already have the implementation, the take screenshot and the WebDriver thing. Okay. Now tell me, if I try to do cd.manage, what will happen? Ashok?
I think I missed it, Akhil, but let me try. If you have any overridden method, I think it will pick that one.
Right, but let's say I do not have a overridden method of the default versions. What will happen in that case?
Then it will go for an existing method.
But which version, right? It has two versions of manage method. One is coming from WebDriver, another coming from text screenshot. Which version of this it will run, right? It will only show you manage one time, right? Not two times, right? cd.manage is there. Which version it should run? You have a confusion, right? You don't know which version will run, right,
Yes,
Ashok?
yes, Akhil.
And that is the same confusion compiler will have. Compiler does not know that which version should I run. You, because you're trying to implement two interfaces which have a common default method. I mean, method with the same name, right? A default method with the same name, manage. So now that's why your compiler will start complaining as soon as you try to implement these two interfaces, right, and they tend to have same thing, right? The compiler will start complaining. You can see here, compiler will say that compiler will get to know, okay, you are trying to implement two different interfaces, but both of them have a same default method. Then compiler will say, okay, I will not allow you to move ahead. First of all, tell me, because I can see two versions coming in. Then now there's a rule. Now the compiler will add a rule on you. Compiler will say, okay, I can see two of the versions coming. Now, now there's a responsibility on you that you have to provide the implementation of this manage method inside your Chrome driver, where you will tell what what really things should, I mean, what really should happen when this manage method is invoked. Okay. So here compiler will pass on the responsibility to you and will ask you, please go and make a change in the Chrome driver class and add a method of manage name and provide the implementation there. Okay.
Okay.
Because compiler as of now cannot determine which version of manage method it should run, right? Because both are coming from different interfaces, right? How will
Right.
compiler decide? It cannot decide on its own. It needs some indications, right? So what compiler is saying, if you hover over it, right? I have not implemented the manage method here, but see, it is complaining. Why it is complaining? It is saying package 2 Chrome driver inherits unrelated defaults for manage from types WebDriver and take screenshots. So it is trying to, right? You're understanding the point, right? So now the compiler is confused. Now it is saying the only part is, you can see, right? It is also giving an option. What implement method is still it will do is it will just add something like this, public, the same method signature, manage, and you can see the error will be gone. You can see the error is gone. Okay. Now if you run cd.manage, which version will run? The version which you have specified here.
Yes.
And whatever you want to do inside this, you can do. Let's say you want to say here that I want to run as out Chrome driver manage version. Okay. Chrome driver manage version. Okay. Manage method. If you remember, if you would have only taken stake screenshot, right? Then there was no need for you to provide the implementation here, right? You can see, because in this case, you can see, right? WebDriver still has that manage method, right? But since it's a default method and it has an implementation, so compiler is not asking you to provide the implementation of it, right? But when it will ask you to provide the implementation, when it will find the same method coming from two different interfaces which you're trying to implement. Okay.
Right.
So let me provide here take screenshot. and sorry, okay, I missed it. Okay, public void manage. Let's say you wanted to provide your own implementation and you wrote something like this: Chrome driver manage method. Let me run this now. Okay. Firefox will still complain. I don't. Okay. Let me create for this also. Okay. And I will say, I was saying Firefox, Firefox. Okay. So this is done. Now let me go back to my automation demo and I will run this. Okay. I will run this piece. I don't want this to invoke because it has similar effect. So I think this is fine. Try to see what will run. Okay. The version which you have mentioned in your Chrome driver will run, not the version available in the that interface and the other interface, right? Okay, so this will happen that way, and what will happen? Okay, yeah, right. So we understood this part, right? So why in Java you would require to implement a default method again in your class when you get same methods coming from two different interfaces which you are implementing? Okay, otherwise there is no need to implement those methods because the default implementation are already provided in the interfaces itself. Okay, great. We understood this part. Now let's say what we did here. I just wanted to cover this part very quickly. This part again. See here. Uh, this WebDriver had this managed version, right? This take screenshot has this managed version, and as part of your class Chrome driver, you mentioned your own version, right? Own version. Let's say that currently we have provided our own version, but let where we would have added our own logic. But let's say that I do not want to add my own version. I want to use the version. I want to decide from these two which version should get invoked when someone invokes the manage. Let's say I want to take that call. How can I do that? How can I do that? For doing that, what you have to do is you have to use the name of the interface for which version you want to run. Let's say I'd say that okay, if someone calls a manage method on Chrome driver, it should run this version. Okay, let's say it needs to run this version. So what I'll do is you will have to write a code like this: WebDriver, the interface name. You will use dot super dot and then the manage here. Okay, in this way you do not have to provide a new implementation of manage, right? You what you are saying here is if someone calls a manage method on Chrome driver, it will go and try to run the version of manage coming from this interface, and this is how you have to write. People can ask why we are writing super here. Can't I write WebDriver dot manage directly? You cannot. It's not a static method. It's not a static method. How can you, in which cases you can use a direct dot onto your class or interface, right? If the things are static, this is not static, right? So that's why there's a need to put super here. Okay, and you can learn it as a rule also. Okay, so let's run this. Currently it is doing what we are doing. Chrome driver, this is the part, right? What I will do here is in this part, right? Let me comment this. So I will not be invoking this, but rather I would be invoking WebDriver dot super dot, you can see manage here. Okay, you can access all the other methods also of the interfaces by doing this. Okay, get, find element, whatever you want, but here you're getting nothing there, right? Get and find element has no implementation there. So this makes sense for the manage method because there is an implementation provided for the default method. So if you run this now, what output should you get? Fizula, if you can speak, or if you can try, tell me. If I run cd dot manage now, what should I get printed here? What should get printed here?
Line number 14, that WebDriver manage method.
This one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Let's run this now. Earlier it was running Chrome driver manage method, right? Because that was the implementation which I provided there. But here I wanted to use the version coming from WebDriver, right? If you want to use the version coming from take screenshot, just mention it take screenshot. right?
Okay,
And
could
this
you just
time,
explain that super once again, if you don't mind?
yeah, sure. See, we have already talked about super keyword, right? When we were
Yeah,
discussing
yeah.
about inheritance, right?
Uh-huh.
So that discussion is, do not try to relate that discussion to this, okay? First of
Yeah,
all,
that's right.
okay. And in this case, what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, you understood like why we have to provide this implementation of managed method, right? Because
Yeah, yeah.
these
That's
are,
right.
because both the interfaces which you're trying to implement, there this default method existed. So now compiler needs to know what version it should run, right? So you have three options now. Either you can implement the version of your one of the, you can choose from your interface which version you should use, whether a WebDriver, which is an option one. Second option is take screenshot, which is a version coming from the take screenshot interface, or the third option where you can provide your own implementation, right? If you want to provide your own implementation, this is what you have to do. You will do something like this, right? But if let's say you decided, okay, I will use the version coming from take screenshot, okay? So how can you invoke this? How can you invoke this manage method coming from that take screenshot? You can think, okay, see, you cannot create the instance of interface, right? We all understand this part. I cannot do something like this. If someone thinks that I can do something like this, let's see. I cannot write a code like this. Let's say take screenshot equals to new take screenshot like this, right? I cannot do this because interface for interfaces you cannot instantiate, right, Fizula?
Yes, yes.
So you cannot do something like this. ts dot manage. You cannot do this. This is not allowed. Okay, this is not allowed. Okay, it will throw an error here itself. It is saying why are you trying to instantiate it, right? It cannot be instantiated. So this is not an option for us. Okay, so what is the option we are left with? The only option which we have is you can use the interface name as is, right? And maybe you can think, okay, I do not have to use super. Okay, you don't use super. If you try to use a class name or an interface name dot and try to access it, what kind of things you get access to? You get access to static methods only. Is it a static method? No,
No.
it's not a static method, right? So they devised, so Java developers, right, they said it, okay, we still need to access it, right? It's not static, it's not anything else, right? How to access it now? So they say, okay, let's use this way. So they gave us the option and said that, okay, if you want to access this, right, and using both the approach which I showed you by creating the instance, it's not possible because it's an interface. If you try to use it this way, it cannot be accessed because it's a static thing. It's not a static thing, right? So what option you have is you have to use super dot. Okay, you have to
Okay,
use
got
super
it.
here. Okay, and if you want to use the version coming from the WebDriver, you will just mention the WebDriver interface name. Okay, so this time the version of your WebDriver will run, right?
Interface can only have default, right? If, other than the abstract methods we are using, only default can be there. No static allowed, right?
That is the next question. That is the next part I'm coming to.
Okay,
So
okay.
we talked about default methods, right, in
Yeah.
interfaces. So everyone should be clear what are default methods in interfaces. Default methods were created so that you could enhance your capability of your interface, right? And you can without, so that you can avoid breaking your existing code base, right, of your users, right? And as part of your default method, you provide the implementation there. Okay, now and we also all the rules. Now the last part about, yes, Fizula, you want to ask something?
There's one more thing, like you told, like we even earlier we used to have 100% of abstraction, right? Now,
Right,
if we provide this default method, how is it going to be 100%?
it's not gonna be. It's
Yeah,
not going to be, right? they
yeah,
are they are they are moving away from it, but it was necessary so that you could enhance your interfaces. Otherwise what was happening is that one fine day someone created an interface and you expect that person that today that you are in year 1990 and you think about all the upcoming years of hundreds next year and then provide all the abstract method which you think your interface can have. It's not feasible, right? I can write the code which I can understand as of today, right? As what I can think in the whatever future I can think of. But right, you understand this point. I cannot overthink about it, right? So but with that default thing, right, where I could not add the capability there in the existing interface, so it was creating a bottleneck, right? If people are using Selenium and they are used to provide WebDriver, right? I mean, they're used to invoke the interface or try to create the instance of the session by writing this line WebDriver wd equals to new Chrome driver, right? If they're doing it right, so you can understand, right? I mean, if we start making a lot of changes in our interfaces thing, then each and everyone's code will go for a toss, because there would be additional task with every new release of Selenium. Okay, someone has made a change in interface. Okay, let's go and try to implement it again, right? So covering that part, your point is 100% valid. That now even interfaces are not 100% abstraction. Okay, but they have tried to minimize it by saying that okay, we are giving you the version of the default method, but if you want, you can change that version also, right? I can come here and even change that version, right? So, I mean, they just try to find a middle ground. But again, they lost about that 100% abstraction. It's not 100% abstraction now. Okay, I think
Yeah,
you
I
got the
got,
point.
yeah,
Okay.
I got it. Thanks.
Now the last part. What are static methods? Okay. Now, what they did was they also introduced a static method. How they do is the static method. You can add that method here as static, and you will write void, and let's say let me add one more method, find get element manage, what else, what all methods we have, navigate, let's say navigate to. Okay, let's say I added this method, and here again you can provide the implementation here. Again another method, another capability which they are providing and saying that okay, provide, I'm giving you one more place where you can provide the implementation inside the interface. Okay, so you will add, you can see if I try to add here static and try to do this, it will complain. You cannot write an abstract method with a static thing. It's not allowed. So what is allowed is if you're trying to mark something as static, you have to provide the implementation of that method. Again, this came as part of Java 8 only. So here, let me write here system.out.println, and I will do what, uh, web driver, web, web driver, and navigate to method, navigate to method. Okay, right? Now, what is the difference here with this and this? That should be an obvious question, right? If we already had a default thing, why they provided an additional capability? I could achieve everything by writing default, right? But the difference here is if you use manage method, right? If you use this manage method, right, you still have the option in your class whether you want to override this behavior or not. Okay, whether you want to override that behavior or not. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me remove this text screenshot out. Okay, let's talk about this WebDriver. So Chrome driver class is implementing WebDriver interface. Okay, it is implementing that interface, and if I want, I can provide the implementation of manage method. Okay, let me just make it commented and let me provide my own implementation, so I can override that behavior, right? Or I'm also fine if I don't do it, because in that case what will happen, what will be the default implementation taken? This default implementation will be taken, right? So the point is, with default methods, you can use the version which your interface is providing, or you could override that behavior. But with static method, you cannot override. Okay. So if I try to override this behavior, void navigate to. Okay, first of all, let me not do it. Let me not override it, but let me show you how to access this. So what you will do here is go to automation demo, and this time we will do cd dot, and you can see navigate to. Okay, I do not have navigate to here, right? So you can see you do not have navigate to method here. You do not have a navigate to method. Why is that? You were able to access default method but not the static method. See, the purpose of having the static method is that, again, how do you access static method? You access it through the name of the interface or the classes, right, which you had there. Interface, we never had the static thing, right? They started introducing this here only, right, with this concept. Now what they're saying is, if you want to access this, you have to use something like this, WebDriver dot navigate to. So What are the two key differences here? Let me go there on the board. So we're talking about default and static. Default and static methods, right? In case of interfaces. With case of default, right, what happens here is using this you can add method with implementation in interface. You can do it. Similarly, you can do the same thing using the static thing also, right? The same part. So this is same. So this observation is same as here also. But in case of default, you can override. You can override it, right? You can override, or you cannot, right? Let's say you don't want to. So it's an optional thing, right? It's an optional thing. You want to override. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Then the version of the WebDriver, the interface will be taken. Let's say you did override. So in this case, if you try to run this version, which version will run? The class version will run. If you don't override, which version will run? The interface version will run, right? So both the versions are allowed, right? So you can, but here, how will you be doing this? You will be doing by creating the instance of the class cd dot whatever name you want to do, right? This is how you will do it, manage, right? Like this. In case of static, what you can do? First of all, okay, same. And what I was saying, you can override, and with the static thing, right? Uh, let I will check this override part. Okay, I'm coming to that part. Let me just make one more check. I should not tell you something wrong. I will check this part, but I feel it cannot be overridden. But let's see. But here, right, you cannot access these static methods by the instances of your class. How you will be able to access? Because these are static methods. You can only access it by the interface name. So you will say, okay. So this is an interface name, whatever that name would be, right? Dot and the method name. So this is the only place, this is the only way you can access, okay? The static part, I mean the static method, okay? And this will work that way. Let
And
me, and you
default
cannot do, and you
super.
cannot do something with the class name, okay? You cannot do something like this here. So this is not allowed, okay? Because these are not normal methods, these are static methods, and CD does not have access to it. Yes, Fizula, you were asking something.
And for interface, you'll have to use this one. Like for default, you'll have to use super, right?
Yes, first, if you want to access the version of coming from the interface, you will have to do something like this. You will use the name of the interface, right? And then you will use super, and then the whatever name you had,
Method name.
right? Method name, right?
Yeah.
This is how you will do it. Okay. And now you can understand why why there was a need of super, because in that case they wanted to differentiate, right? How you are invoking, what you are invoking. With when you use super, right, you get access to your default methods, but here you get access to your static methods. One last thing which I wanted to cover is the overriding part. Let's see. I think you cannot override, but let's see. Which is what WebDriver here, right? This is our static method. Let me copy this override method. So I will say from driver here, and here I will do driver. I will say this part navigate to, okay, public void navigate. Sorry, navigate void navigate to. Okay. Now, if you would see, you can create a method, right? No one stops you to create a same method which you have in interface, right? But this is not an overridden version of it. Please remember, right? This is not a overridden. What do you say? Override. Let me just do one thing. Let me just remove this. How do you do it? Implement methods. Find element coming from this. Yes, override. Override here, right? You can see it is complaining here. It is saying method does not override methods from a superclass. Okay, so it means that you cannot override this behavior. Okay, you cannot override this behavior of navigate to. You getting the point, right? So you cannot override it here. Let me go back. Not here. So you cannot override. But let me make it more complex. You can't override. What if you have the same static method inside both of your interface? What will happen in that case? What will happen in that case? Let's try to see. Let's try to see. Let's think about it, right? So let me do one thing. So first of all, this you can see it says a problem. What is the problem? Problem is method does not override method. Okay, fine. WebDriver. Okay, it does not show. I let me remove this override thing. Okay, so let me remove this part also. Okay, what I was saying. So this is a WebDriver interface, and here I have this static method. Let me make it available in the take screenshot also. Take screenshot, and let me add this method here also. Now take screenshot, navigate to method. Now both of my interfaces have the similar static method. Now let me implement this. Take screenshot, and I have added what method? Let me see. And related defaults for manage. Yes, so let me add for the default manage only. So you can see it is still complaining for the manage method only, which was the default thing, right? And it added a version whichever it thought it has to add. So it just added the WebDriver version in it. But here you can see, right? Here you are not able, I mean, here it did not complain about the static methods. Why it did not complain? It did not complain because anyhow you cannot access this method. Anyhow you cannot access this method inside your class, right? We saw that, right? If you use cd here, if you use cd here dot navigate to, you can see there is no method with the navigate to coming from the Chrome driver class. Why? Because that's a static method, and static method was created inside the interface. So if you want to access this, right, you have to use the WebDriver directly. WebDriver navigate to. Okay, if you want to access the method, static method coming from the other thing, then you have to use that part, which is take screenshot. Okay, take screenshot, navigate to. Okay, this is how you do it. But if you want to use this, right, let's say you still want to have an overridden version in your thing, but it will not be an overridden, it will be an overloaded. Okay, or overloaded, or I mean whatever you want to say, right? But it will not be an overridden thing. Let me go there in the Chrome driver, and let me create a method with the web public thing, right? Public void navigate to, right? Let me tell you, this is not override version, right? Because this method is not even applicable, right? This class here does not see this method, and it does not have a responsibility to provide the implementation of it. But it's like it's you can consider it's like a new method, right? New method which does not exist, which did not exist earlier. Okay, so if I do public void navigate to, I can write here my own thing, whatever I want to do, or what I can do something like this also, right? WebDriver dot navigate to, right? Let's say I just wanted to have a method in this class, right? So that I'm accessing all the methods coming from interface. So I can do this. But try to understand, this is not an overridden method. No, this is something which you are creating, right? Okay, right?
Just one doubt, Akhil. Can't we use WebDriver or take screenshot, right? Those classes, the static method, can't be used inside this Chrome driver. That's what you're using the dot operator.
If you try to create the instance of this Chrome driver class, and if you think by just creating the instance of that class, you can access this navigate to method, then
Inside
the
the
answer
inside the Chrome driver, can't we access the static void navigate method? No, not implementing our own version.
like this.
No, like outside this, like can't we create using the dot operator? Can't we
Tell me which class. Automation demo. Let me go there, right?
inside the Chrome driver
Inside-
class?
Okay, if I go there,
Can't
let's
we?
tell me.
Yeah, using the dot operator, right? Can't we use the? I mean, call that method static method.
Tell me which line I should write. Then I think I can answer your question. Like, should I write at line number 11 here?
Outside the line.
Outside the line, you mean, let's say here, line number 8.
Anyway, can we write something using like WebDriver dot navigate to?
WebDriver dot navigate to. First of all, you're writing a logic and you cannot write that logic outside a method, right? You understand this part.
Yeah,
So
something
anyhow, this, right? So you will have to create a method here, right?
inside a method, like the same line. Can we use it somewhere?
Let me create a method,
Yeah.
something, a method which is for Chrome driver only, right? So let me write
Yeah.
public void Chrome details, let's say, right?
Mhm.
So this is what I did. And you're saying, can't I use this as is here?
Yeah,
If I have to write this, then yes, you can do it.
we can do it, right? So we can call a static method inside this also, right?
Right. You can see, for when you're doing this way, right? It is like, it is not like that since Chrome driver has implemented this interface, that is why you are able to write this. If I remove this WebDriver also, na, if I remove this entire thing, then also you can use it like this. You can say it is not complaining.
Okay, okay, got it. Yeah,
You got the point, right?
yeah, got it. Okay,
So,
okay.
so the point here is that static methods. Now let's just understand why static method exists in the first place in interface. The creators of interface decided that, let's say that if someone does not want to implement all the methods of the interface, right, but they want some common capability, right, which I mean, one capability, not all the capabilities which that interface had, but just one capability, right? So what they said it, okay, what they can do is they can just simply use the interface name and then do a dot on it and get the method from there. Okay, that is the whole purpose. But what I did not understand is, like, this thing was also doable if you would create a class. But the problem, I mean, this was also possible there, right? You could create a class and then you can use it, right? See, but you're understanding the point, right? Static methods can be created inside a class also, and now you can see the static method can also be created inside a interface, right? Why there
Yes.
was a need to create static method inside an interface? The, see, there are two very basic rules. Classes can be instantiated, interfaces can't. Second, classes can be inherited, right? And interfaces are required to be implemented. Java allows single inheritance, but Java allows multiple implementation of different interfaces, right? Now, if you try to think on a bigger picture, right, considering all these rules, you will realize that they're trying to provide an extra solution, right, for a problem which maybe which only a handful of people may be having. Okay, so that's why you will not find people using this static thing very often. But now you will definitely find a lot of classes or libraries in a lot of different packages that they have this default method, because using this default method they got the capability to enhance their interface, right? And so that their interface can be grow, can be extended. Okay, and that is a core purpose of your OOP concept, that you try to write your things, or you try to write your code so that you can have the extendability in your code, and this provides you one, the default method, right, everyone?
Yes, got it.
Great, great. Okay, so this is what I wanted to cover for today. I do not want to I do not wanted to cover the collection now. I think we're good with this, and I hope again, this is the last time I'm saying this is again, I would not say this is like basic Java, right? I do not consider interface and abstract classes as a part of basic Java. As per my interpretation, I think that these are part of your advanced Java, right? But again, for this class, right, I kept saying that this is a part of basic Java, but that is not correct. So in a way, we have already started advanced Java like 5 or 6 classes before, right? But if you would see, the concepts are very same, right, with respect to it. Now when we talk about collections, you would see a different level altogether. But that level is also very easy. It's not very hard, right? But let's save it for Monday. We'll discuss everything about collections on Monday. But this is it, and please revise your things, right? And let's meet on Monday. If you have any queries in on, or if you have any doubts, please ask on the Discord. And if we are not able to answer it and still require some sessions, we will have a session on Saturday. But before, but please ask on Discord first, and do watch the recordings, right? What of all the topics, because we have covered everything in depth. And also, what I've started to doing is I've started throwing some MCQs on the channel itself, right? Please try to answer them and try to see like what is I mean, what do you think and what others think, right? You can see the results there also, right? So please try to solve those MCQs also as part of your daily exercise. I will try to post 3 or 4 MCQs or try to do it on daily basis. I'm not promising, but I will try my best. Okay. So this can really help you to think about the process again, about the topics. Okay, great. I think we are good for today. Let's meet on Monday and we'll start the
Just one
advanced.
more document. Sorry for
Yeah,
that. The
please,
last
please,
one.
please. Yeah, please,
So
please.
in this way, to implement the static method, we'll have to go to the main method and then call from there, right? If you're using interface, like how you did before. Like suppose the Chrome driver implements both. I mean, both the interface are implemented by that. Yeah, both the interface. So if I want to use the static method,
Hmm.
I'll have to go to the main and then from there I have to use the dot and then call, right? Is that
Not,
so?
you do not have to go to main method. You can do it here also, right? You can see, right? I did not, let's say I did not implement it first of all, right? Okay, let me just
No,
write here.
after implementation, like
After implementation also it is the same thing. Whether you are implementing that interface or not, it does not matter. What matters is that if you have to access that method, you will have to use the name of the interface, dot operation on it, and then access the method.
what is the exact use of the static method?
See, again, I said, right, the exact use is like what you can do is, okay. See, your interface here, right? Your interface here has now three types of methods. Okay, one is like abstract methods, right? Now, if you want to use this, right, how will you do it? You have to you need a class which will implement this interface, right or no? You will have to have a class which will implement this interface, and only then you can access these methods, right, Fizula?
Yeah.
Right. So abstract method is this. Now we talked about default methods. Default method, we understood like these are like additional methods which you wanted to have inside your interface, but here you will provide the implementation. Now why
Yes.
would you need it? You would need it because let's say you wanted to enhance the capability of the interface with some new capabilities, and if your class requires, they can even override this behavior, right? They can write their own version of this code, right?
Yes.
But this will be treated as an overridden version. Okay, and overridden happens in the case of the parent child thing, right? We discussed about this. Okay, overridden behavior. So it's like an overridden behavior of this class. Now they introduce one more thing, static thing. Now to try to understand, for abstract or for default, what was required is that the class has to implement the interface, and then only then they can access these methods, right? What
Yes.
about static method? Static method, you can create any static method you want, right? And let's say this class was not implementing this interface, so this class can still access this method. Otherwise, the only way to access the methods coming from interface was what? You have to implement that interface,
Implement interface.
right? But with this, there is no need. You can just directly access the name of the interface and then do a dot and access this method. Okay. I hope now
Yeah.
this
Now
you
it's
got the
clear.
answer,
Yeah. I just had that doubt like what is use of it. Yeah, got it.
right?
Yeah,
We
thanks for that.
we understood the use case, right? But I still have a doubt that why would someone create a static method inside a interface? That is
That's
something
what
which
when
I
I had
don't,
that doubt, you know.
right? Which I don't have an answer to actually as of now, because you
Because
can also, because you can also have a class which can have a static method.
yeah, that's what like without interface if you can use it, then why do we have to use interface for that static?
That is something which I will have to also figure out. But you have to understand like what is the difference between static and the
It's
abstract and
understood.
default thing, right? Okay.
Yeah, that understood. Only this doubt was there. We got it.
Okay. Great. Okay. I think we're good now. Let's meet on Monday. Great. Have a nice weekend and please practice as much as you can and revise the topics. Thank you so much. Good night. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.